You ever see something you weren't supposed to? Like, your instincts already had this sense that something was different, but evidence took you by surprise more than you could possibly have prepared for? That's what did it to me the night I booted up her laptop. I'm gonna be honest, this feels weird to even put out there. I'm the kind of guy who likes to keep things close to the vest, but my brain hasn't been able to shut off thinking about this whole sequence of events, like some movie that I did not want to pay for. So, here we are. I met Jessica last year. She just had that about her, like the sort of girl who could walk into a coffee shop and all of a sudden the whole room would light up. You know, the sort of person who just completely changes the atmosphere in a room? That was her. She smiled constantly, not that type of annoying, Instagram smile, type of thing, but like everything was quietly funny to her. I swear, I was addicted in the first week. We collided at a study table on campus. I was there because, come on, my apartment was too darn noisy to do any work, and she was slumped over her laptop like she was about to crack some government cipher. I still remember that she had her hair pulled back in that messy bun, and the keyboard of her laptop had these tiny sticky notes, with reminders plastered all over them. It was sweet, nutty. When I questioned her as to what she was up to, she replied to me, "Saving the world. One group project at a time." I chuckled. We talked. And then I remember saying, suddenly, "Well, in case you ever need to get distracted, I'm a professional procrastinator." She raised her eyebrow and smiled, and it was over. By the next week, we were together. She was not just my girlfriend. She was my best friend. And I know a lot of people say this about someone, but with her, I felt like I could finally breathe around someone. She brought out sides of me I didn't even know I had. Like I'm always the quiet guy in the corner. Okay? But with Jess, somehow she made me the guy telling stories at parties. The guy who cracked jokes. I felt heard, man. Really heard. And that's what this is so hard to talk about, because when you look back, you catch yourself questioning every memory. Every tiny detail. Was it real? Or was I just existing in some version of the reality she let me experience? Anyway, right from the start, she told me that there was a lot on outside of us. Family affairs. Work. School. She said there were times when she'd have to get really concentrated and just delve into her laptop for hours. Honestly, I was in awe of that. I envied how busy she was. She seemed to be driven. At least, that's how I convinced myself. But occasionally, I'd catch these tiny things. Like she'd laugh at her phone when I knew I hadn't texted her. Or she'd have plans with a friend to study together, but wouldn't mention who. I didn't want to overthink it. I didn't want to be that guy. You know? The clingy boyfriend creeping around, accusing everyone of everything. That wasn't me. That's not what I wanted to be for her. But hindsight, maybe it should have. We were together for about 9 months before it happened. And in that 9 months, man, my whole life turned around. We'd take walks at night, late, just talking about dreams, where we were going to be in 10 years. She wanted to see the world. Go to places I couldn't even pronounce the name of. And she'd sparkle whenever she would speak about them. Me? I wanted to build something permanent, something that would last. I envisioned us living in a tiny apartment, decorating it with someone else's cast-offs, supermarket flowers on the table. Normal things. Nothing crazy. But she was the type of woman who wanted to pursue the horizon. I thought. Perhaps we could balance each other out. A dreamer and a pragmatic type. There were hints, though. Small ones. Just as before, I asked her, "If you could go anywhere tomorrow, no job, no budget, where would you go?" She answered right away. "Santorini." Easy. She spat it out so fast, I barely questioned it. But the thing is, how do you decide on a random Greek island so easily unless you've been thinking about it? She casually remarked that she disliked airline food one day. I teased her like, "Oh, which airlines have you been traveling, Mrs. World Traveler?" She smiled and added, "Come on, everyone knows airline food is crap." Still, the way she said it, so blunt, it stuck with me. Because up until then, I hadn't known any of her recent excursions had been anything beyond round-trip road trips back to her hometown to see her family. Nothing involving boarding passes. But once more, I shoved it aside. I did want to trust her. I resolved to trust her. So then there was this one evening. Thursday evening, nothing unusual. She had visited my place because her Wi-Fi was down, and she said she needed to get some work done on this school project. I made popcorn, lay out on the couch as she typed away at my desk. I must have fallen asleep at some point. I woke up an hour later, and she was gone. My desk chair was still turned that way, her water bottle halfway full. And left open on my desk, sitting there, was her laptop. Now, I hadn't meant to look. I know it sounds cliched, but for real, I hadn't. My mom had raised me to have respect for other folks' property, and sneaking was never my style. But the screen wasn't protected. She had to have been in a hurry because the whole thing was on, background lit up. And there, on her desktop, in gigantic black letters, was a folder labeled, Our Trips. I furrowed my face. Our trips. The term hit me odd. Because I was formulating. Oh nice, she preserved the images of our drive trip. Except we never actually did go on one trip. That brief little weekend to the lake. And even then, we didn't actually take photographs. So something wasn't balancing out. My stomach churned. You ever get what your body knows before your head does? That was me. I didn't want to click. I kept repeating. It's not your business. Shut it and go away. But there was something within me, let's say intuition, let's say desperation, that pushed me forward. I clicked on the mouse. The folder opened. And what I saw? Well, that's where everything turned upside down. The folder was packed. Tier upon tier of thumbnails. I sat there paralyzed, fingers resting on the mouse, heart pounding so hard I could have sworn it echoed off the walls of my tiny apartment. For a brief second, I persuaded myself, perhaps these are just pictures she pulled from the internet. Perhaps it's an assignment on tourism in school. Perhaps, Our Trips, is a group project folder. I yearned desperately to believe anything except what lay before me. But my body had other plans. Curiosity, or maybe suicide, pushed me to double-click. The first picture filled the screen. It was Jessica, undeniable. Same smile, same glint in her eyes. Except she wasn't sitting across from me at our local coffee shop or curled up beside me on my couch. No. She was standing in front of the Eiffel Tower. Paris. And she wasn't by herself. Next to her, with his arm across her shoulder, was some guy I'd never met. Tall. Confident-looking. Smiling like he had a right to be there. My chest slammed shut the second I laid eyes on them. Heat blazed into my neck. But my hand? My hand kept snapping. Another photo. Now they're standing in front of a Greek island view that looked exactly like how she'd described Santorini to me. She wasn't dreaming it. She'd already been there. With him. I clicked again. Rooftop bar in Tokyo City. Neon lights. Them standing side by side at what seemed to be some high-end rooftop bar. Photo after photo, date after date, city after city. Sunsets, beaches, dinners, sightseeing tours. This wasn't one trip. This was dozens. Stored neatly away in subfolders by location. And all labeled with this word, our. Not hers and mine, hers and his. I felt the air sucked out of the room. My vision narrowed, as if my body had its best attempt to shield me from it all. And still, I couldn't look away. It was a slow-motion car accident, except it was my car, my life, the flames consuming what I thought I knew. I sat there in shock, attempting to wrap my head around it. Had she taken all of these trips during the course of our relationship? Or had this happened before me? If before me, then why do they reside in a folder on her desktop, freshly labeled, Our Trips? And what about that man? Who was he? A friend? A former boyfriend? Someone still current? Questions stacked up in my mind like heavy boxes piling down on me. I moved in closer, eyes scanning for hints. Dates. Timestamps. And that's when it got ugly. Because I'd only ever seen a picture of her in Rome. Standing in front of a fountain, clearly happy. My gut had churned as I remembered. I remembered that week. That specific week. Because she told me then, when she was in Rome with relations, that she was helping her cousin move. My body went stiff. My hands shook. That was 2 months into our relationship. And now I couldn't avert my eyes. Every smiling photo was a dagger. Every caption name, every folder, proof piled on the Jess I thought I knew. I closed the laptop slowly, as if it would burst if I moved too quickly. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even sense my legs supporting me. I just slumped back in the chair, staring blankly out into the room. My popcorn bowl stayed on the couch. Half full. Completely ordinary. Which in some twisted way made it worse, because my world had been flipped over, but the popcorn didn't care. I wrung my hands into my face. My brain was screaming messy. Part of me needed to shriek. Part of me needed to cry. And another part needed to pretend what I had just seen never happened. Just turn back the last 5 minutes and behave like the universe never pulled this trick on me. But I couldn't. I had witnessed too much. About 20 minutes later, I heard the front door open. Jess had come back. She came in with a bag of groceries. Obviously, she'd just gone down to the basement and brought back snacks and juice because we were settling in for the night. She smiled at me. That same warm smile she always saved for me. And for a moment, my brain grappled with how to make it fit. Like, how could that smile, the one that had held me in thrall from the get-go, be on the person hiding an entire second life from me? She walked over to me, kissed me on the cheek offhandedly, unaware of the storm in my heart. "Miss me?" she asked, as though it was any other night. And I went stiff. I went stiffly enough that my silence must have been observed, because she tilted her head, looking at me. "Hey, are you okay?" I glared at her computer, still shut on my desk. At her. My throat tightened. Words churned within me, aching to burst out. Tell her what you saw. Ask her straight. Just rip the bandage off. But I couldn't then. Not with that smile still stuck on her face. Not with the groceries still tight in her grip like some cruel joke. So I shook my head. Forced a weak smile. "Yeah. Just tired." She bought it. Or she wasn't going to question it, maybe. Either way, she continued as if nothing was different. She unwrapped juice and chips, laughing over some story from school, talking on as if nothing was different. But for me, everything was already broken. That night was agony. I lay next to her in bed, staring up at the ceiling, trying to make sense of the two worlds. On the one hand, Jess, the girl who took my hand, kissed my forehead, told me she loved me. And on the other, Jess, the girl with reams of folders full of exploits with some other boy, smiling a smile that looked exactly the same, but wasn't directed at me. I didn't sleep. I didn't stir. I just lay there, listening to her breathing, thinking about how many of her lies I'd swallowed hook, line, and sinker without ever questioning. Thinking about how long she looked into my eyes while living a different reality in secret. The worst of it? She grabbed at me in sleep, hands slipping down over my chest as she always did. And for a moment, my heart ached with that old, welcome comfort. Except it seared this time. Because I recognized it wasn't real, not anymore. By morning, I hardly recognized myself in the mirror. Hollow eyes. Dry mouth. A dude who looked like a guy who was going to break. I could no longer hold it in. I needed the answers. When she got up to get coffee, I cornered her by the counter. "Hey," I said, already shaking. "Jess, can I ask you something?" She looked at me, faintly confused, but even. "Of course." I gulped. My stomach twisted. "That folder on your computer. The one in our trips. Who is it about?" Her brow creased in a flash. Not angry, more surprised. She blinked rapidly, then agitatedly laughed. "Oh, you opened that?" Her tone was airily dismissive, brushing it aside as if it didn't matter. But it wasn't nothing. To me, it wasn't. "Yeah," I replied flatly. "I opened it. I saw everything." The world paused for a beat. Her eyes locked on mine, the smile faltering, to be replaced with an expression I'd never seen on her before. It wasn't guilt, not exactly. It was calculation. Like she was doing math in real time as to which mask to don. My heart was racing so strongly that I was afraid I'd pass out. That's when she said, hardly above a whisper, "Dot, I guess you weren't supposed to see that." The ground was suddenly ripped out from under me. Her tone, the utter casualness of her tone, hurt more than the pictures hurt. And that's when it all collapsed. Her words hung in the air like smoke I couldn't shake. "I guess you weren't supposed to see that. That's it." No crazy explanation. No crying. No crazy. "It's not what it seems." Just acceptance. Like the truth had been sitting right in front of me the entire time, and the only shock was that I had finally tripped over it. I could feel the whole length of me humming. Not the good kind, the pre-roller coaster thrill kind. No, the bad kind, the one where your chest can't contain your heart anymore. I swallowed hard, trying to gear myself up to even utter a word, but words tumbled out clumsy, disjointed. Jess, who is he? She didn't answer right away. She looked at the counter, her fingers tapping on her coffee mug. And then at last, not even having the decency to look me in the eye, she whispered, "His name's David." David. So bland, so plain. But at that moment, the name was heavier than I could bear. My head spun. David was in the pictures. David was the one sitting beside her in Paris, in Santorini, in Japan. David was the one she laughed with, leaned against, kissed when the camera flashed. I was going to be sick. So you've been with him the whole time? I asked. She shook her head wildly, finally turning to face me. No. I mean, not at the same time. We were together before you. A long time. Years. And it's complicated. Complicated. I repeated, my voice strained. You have an entire desktop folder for him. For you too, that's not complicated. That's obvious. And it's not me. My hands were shaking. I grasped the counter just to have something solid beneath my fingertips, because the room was spinning around me like one of those nasty merry-go-rounds. She sighed, finally gazing at me. I didn't intend to hurt you. Those vacations, they were my most cherished memories. The happiest times of my life. I couldn't erase them. I stared at her, incredulity oozing from each word. So you just left them out there? With our trips on them? And what, I was just never to be important enough to even change that word "are"? She winced, but didn't say anything. The quiet was suffocating. I wanted her to fight for me, assure me it wasn't what it looked like, lie even, because then at least I could cling to something. But she didn't. She remained there, still, like she'd already moved a million miles away. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't ever really her world. I was the intermission. The chapter in between. She wasn't building with me, she was recovery ing from him. The foundation that all my thoughts about us rested upon shattered in that moment, completely and irreparably. I backed away gradually. My chest was heavy, like all the air had been replaced with concrete. Jess, do you have any idea how insane this is? I thought you and me were us. I thought this, I gestured between us, pleading, frantic, was real. Her eyes softened, finally showing a flicker of guilt. She stepped forward, offering her hand to grasp my arm. It is real. You mean so much to me. But I pulled away before she could grab me. Not enough. Not compared to him. She paused. And I think in that moment she knew that whatever she said wasn't going to make it any different. Because when someone chooses where they want to put their heart, everything else doesn't matter. And hers wasn't really here. With me. I did not scream. Ironically, the fall was not as loud as I would have assumed. It was quiet, actually, so quiet that it seemed like an omen. My voice was tentative, trembling, like a child who's admitting he's scared of the dark. I gave you everything. Trust. Time. Everything. And what? Was I just a distraction? A temporary solution until you sorted yourself out? Her lips parted as if she wished to reply. But she didn't. She couldn't. And that silence said it all about everything I didn't want to hear. I nodded slowly, as if I were signing off on something with someone else in the room that I alone heard. My throat burned, but I coerced the words from it. I think I can't do this anymore. Her eyes widened, panic finally dawning. Wait, what? No. You don't mean that. But I did. Maybe not yesterday. Maybe not even 5 minutes ago before the folder. But now, my heart was shattered, and there was no tape in existence strong enough to mend it. I can't, I breathed, voice breaking. I can't keep loving someone who's somewhere else. The rest of the hours were a blur. She tried to explain, tried to spin excuses, but I barely listened. Every word bounced off like static. I was already gone inside, already mourning something that I thought was still alive yesterday. As she walked away that afternoon, I released her without running after her. Without asking her to stay. And that, more than anything else, was the proof I needed. Love had turned into loss, and loss had turned into clarity. Those subsequent days were difficult. Harsh, in fact. My apartment was too bare. All little things screamed her name: the mug she drank from every time, the hoodie she borrowed, the playlist she made for us. It hurt to breathe, because it brought memories I wasn't ready to hold. But slowly, as week after week went by, something shifted. The pain yielded to perspective. I realized I wasn't heartbroken that she chose someone else. I was heartbroken because I had silenced all those little signs screaming at me. I knew deep down that something did not make sense, but I chose to trust without discernment. And while trust is beautiful, blind trust without integrity is building a house on sand. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough. It was that she wasn't ready to leave the past behind. Her book with him wasn't finished, and I walked into the middle of a story that wasn't mine to tell. It hurt to realize that at first. But then it freed me. Because love, real love, doesn't keep backup folders of past lives in plain sight. It doesn't leave room for, maybe someday, with someone else. Real love chooses you whole, without divided borders. And I am deserving of that. We all deserve that. The breakdown stung, but the outcome was this: I left that relationship with my trust shattered, but with my value remaining intact. I learned that I wasn't the filler chapter. I was the start of my own book. And now, months later, I can actually say this without choking up: I don't regret us. Because she taught me that I could love unapologetically, that I could give all I had to being there. The fact that she wasted it? That's on her. The fact that I gave it? That's my strength. And eventually, sooner or later, that power is going to tie me to someone who doesn't merely smile for photos on holidays, but who builds something with me. No folders on the desktop needed. So yeah, that evening, the evening with her laptop, it killed me. But it also woke me up. And if you've walked through something like this, if you've ever discovered a truth that collapsed your chest, know this: you will survive it. It doesn't feel like that initially. It feels like the end of the world initially. But sooner or later, you realize it was merely the end of their world with you. You get to construct yours, better, stronger, more honest than ever. If you've ever been through something similar, I'd love to know your opinions in the comments. And if this tale resonated with you even a little, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on that bell.